good for us in the woods.
Yes.
And driving around on the road here too. I drove up to ET today,
Hey, bud.
filled each gas can.
Hey, JJ.
I don't know if you see
Yeah.
that, I wrote it there, that I was gonna give April's,
Yep, I saw that.
she's not gonna be here, and then.
Yep.
Give that to your wife.
Oh, yeah. Actually, she's gonna be here tonight.
Chris,
Why don't you just give it to her?
Perfect.
She'd like to get it from you better than me.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Yeah.
You say Ken?
Yeah, you know, that one statement that he referenced. I'd like to read that, because that must have been a doozy.
Yeah. I think this will all end up working out.
I hope so.
You have a nice vacation, Deb?
Yes,
Good.
very good.
Yeah, but where is this money coming
Well, I've been gone, I don't know.
We're chasing someone else.
from? Huh?
It's 112.
Oh, now, is this on cash basis or is it on accrual?
That's accrual, that's why it's in there. It's accrual, so it's 112 up.
Not really packed.
But we didn't actually receive it?
Back row, take the TVs down.
So it's always,
I got it.
it's the,
Yeah. TV, cardboard
Okay, wait a minute.
for all,
in accrual, you accrue your
just,
bill.
and move the,
Right.
Howdy, everybody.
the little picture that I got.
Okay.
Well, here's the one.
Yeah, we jumped low.
For the lake.
Hey.
Oh,
For the last meeting this October, so I'll hand it in, take them.
Courtesy sign.
Or they get possession of clothing.
How you doing?
Are you Jim, you own by?
I sure am.
Let it be signed.
I'm gonna get courtesy sign.
Yeah,
Is
this
that the
guy,
last one you
His
did?
hands.
First time you said this about, I brought it into the office, and so they took care of it.
my extras. I've been.
Lots you have, 17? You have 17 lots?
Getting ready to go on vacation?
Well,
Yeah, I got it. When I lived in Speedway, just like, bought it at
How are you?
long I don't need it.
I think I got you, Tom.
Been better, been worse, right, Ben?
Do you have your paper?
You got a pen? Lord,
Forget everything, because it's not November, that's me, you're on That's
Okay.
That was before us. We're digging
Got a pen on you?
Real.
Use mine.
Didn't know there was a fake.
John, what do you do? John?
Usually, if I'm not drinking, I'm all right.
This guy right there.
No, actually, if I'm drinking, I'm good, so.
Me.
How you doing, Jim? Look at you, free range.
Just got rid of the sling
Still
today.
acting, you're still acting like you got the sling. Is it just invisible?
Took it
or-
off today.
Oh, okay.
First time.
Is this yours to run?
Let you go on your run.
You want to run?
I got about 10 things to go over it.
Okay.
Different lots.
No problem, okay.
Just what more
Come on.
She's
It's doing good. Ed went to the doctor today for the follow-up.
Yeah, she does.
He showed me the x-rays and he showed me. That's right.
Not
You
you.
do like all your arms
Now-
here,
He's starting to do that. It hurts my hip.
Mr. Muhlenbeck?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Just ask my wife.
I'll be I expect it.
Well, ask
If I get off my ass and bring my paperwork. I gotta sit down and do this though.
I'm still having nuts. It is all doing, got to go shopping today.
Closing.
Oh, how are you doing? Yeah, I heard you had a good vacation.
I did.
Well deserved. Yeah.
I got about 80.
I haven't got one. They said it would probably somewhere around 10 weeks. I think it was gonna be a few more weeks. Yeah, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that.
No, we just called her.
I walked.
I retired.
It's already been put up.
Actually, not. They were like, you think we were probably, no, June, July, August, September, October. I'm here.
Look at you. Excellent, sir. There you go. Thanks, John.
What year?
She's got us.
All right.
I noticed that
Yeah,
the units of measure are measurements of the water quality. I wasn't here the last week, and I didn't get it right.
Are they better or worse than they should
I'm not
have?
afraid.
What it says on there is much worse than it is. So my question is,
No matter what, it's all at the wrong actually, because my wife is 7 years younger than me.
I don't know if how
So she was,
I've never seen
they're paying
that.
for Oprah.
But normally the audience is before that's approved. So it's like a part of the official record, it ought to be the better one. It's not. It's for 100 milliliters of water. And 100 milliliters of water contains about 3 million parts, not just 1 million parts.
It's supposed to read 100
No, parts per 100
milliliters.
milliliters of water. And that's a much cleaner standard than
I have a child, so I'm out about it. Great about it.
Thank you for the catch.
Like 30 years. We lived in Atlanta. So, and I was the president. And it was new.
They will.
Term
Almost did. I drove around. I was driving around to DP to fill up the gas can. Live at Miami, where?
Oh, he dressed up.
Take that
And that left over?
What's Thursday? No, next Thursday. 27th.
I was.
Where's that one? That put the ringer on the neck or what?
Yeah. Back around.
Don't fit on my big vanilla.
I saw that advertised. No, I don't.
He made me take this.
I didn't make you do nothing.
Flexible hours.
They're checking to see the workout together. I've got about, we got about
got to sign it.
Early voting on that chart.
I agree. About 4 years ago.
That's why I'm trying to Sean, isn't that long?
You're done.
He got to clean out.
I can't stand.
I'll look into that. He's got to clean out.
For physical, but he made it.
When you put it in his clean out, it's got a screw on lid. We put 3 of them in there real quick. It'll actually expanding foam. It'll come out. They come in 2 pound, 4 pound, and 20 pound. The 2 pound is like there are people getting the 4 pound with some 4 pound toilet, they can't flush it fast. It's rolling out. Yeah, if he got clean it out by his place.
Let's get more doing. That's what you do, you just try to cover up your accounts and then you never think back.
She's seen him over the side.
What'd you say? Is it running?
All right, I got 7 o'clock. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Today is the October 14th, 2019 Heritage Lake Property Owners Association Board of Directors meeting. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see a whole bunch of people sitting out there today. Before we get started, I got a couple of announcements. First of all, AJ will be here. He's running late. He's let me know, so we'll try to save all the fun stuff for when he gets here. Second thing I want to say is that for those of you who aren't already aware, William Goupel submitted his resignation from the board after the September 30th operations meeting. William is in the process of selling his house and moving, so he wanted to give us an opportunity to fill his seat while the board of directors election process is happening. So I was very considerate. He could have just held on and waited and kind of left us hanging, but he's got more integrity than that, so we appreciate that. We thank William for his service on the board and to this community. William, why don't you stand up? Let us give you a round of applause. He's going to be moving on to higher mountains and where he wants to be, so we wish you well, William, and thank you for everything you've done for us. First item on the agenda, Clear Creek Conservancy announcement. Dwayne Kelly.
Dwayne Kelly, 282 Patriots Landing. We had planned to seal the spillway this fall, and the lake stayed up to where we need the lake down about 6 inches below the top of the spillway to be safe to seal it. And the lake stayed up, we talked about it. We could have went in and lowered the lake 6 inches again, but we decided since we lowered it last year so far down that we wouldn't lower it any of this fall. We'll catch it next year. We may have to lower it at some point during the year for 5 or 6 inches to seal that spillway. But we're hoping that Mother Nature will take care of that and it'll be down on its own a little bit.
So we won't be able to seal it if it goes down in the next month or so? Is the weather too
No, it's too
cold?
cold. That's what happened to us last fall. It got too cool. They sealed it last fall, but they weren't satisfied with it because it got too cold on it.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne. Floyd Township Fire Department, Brian Irvin, doesn't look like he's in attendance. Jeff,
He's
yeah?
in Ireland.
Ireland. Nothing? Neighborhood Watch, I believe Ken is gonna read for April Land.
Neighborhood Watch will be meeting October 23rd, normally would meet the third Wednesday. November to March Neighborhood Watch will not be meeting. The annual Gold Bowl Chili Cook-Off will be February 8th, 2020. Please contact April Land at the office to enter.
So Neighborhood Watch doesn't meet November through March, huh?
Correct.
Okay, cool. All right, HLCS, Rick Miller?
Hi, Rick Miller, 26 Gettysburg. As I mentioned at the operations meeting, Harold Pato has decided to move on after 2019 and agreed to stay on and teach me so that I can try and replace him. But I can tell you a couple things I am looking for. I'm looking for volunteers, for editor, proofreader, even help delivering the new directory when it comes out. So if anybody's interested, please contact me. And I want to give a huge thank you to Harold, who's been doing this since 2006, I don't know the date, and give him a chance to speak to you.
All right, thank you, Rick. Harold?
Well, I appreciate it, Rick. I'm so thankful that Rick has showed up to replace me.
It was your only way out, Harold.
Not easy. But so far, Rick has really jumped in on it, and I think he's going to be a great replacement to work with you guys and carry on the newsletter. And he spent a lot of time today just working on getting the phone directory done again and get that upgraded. So that'll be coming out hopefully before the end of the year if we can. And then after December, I will just observe, okay? Thank you.
Harold, thank you. Harold, you carried the baton for an awful long time, and it's good to have you both in the mix right now, working off each other and sharing ideas and finding ways to make it better, and we really appreciate your cooperation. You could have just been like, it's mine till I'm done, and just dropped it, and you're doing a really great thing by helping Rick get up to speed, and Rick's doing a really great thing by bringing his fresh perspective to it, so thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Hellnack, I believe Grant's reading for Heather Ludlow.
Yes. I'll take it back to where it was. There's a fall festival coming up. It is on this one tiny thing. It's Saturday, October 26th from 4 to 7. We are accepting candy donations, and any extra volunteers, please drop the candy off at the office. We had a good turnout for the scary storytelling after dark. This will probably end up being a yearly event. And our next meeting is Monday, November 18th at 6:30 at the clubhouse.
Is the event on the 26th, you said?
Yes, it
Is that primarily geared toward children, or?
Children of all ages, yeah.
Children of all ages, people that behave like children?
Yeah.
There's no age limit?
There's no age
All
limit,
right,
no.
cool. All right, thank you, Grant. POA Security, Brian Helmer. Ken, do you have a report for security?
I do. He contacted me a couple hours ago and said he wasn't going to be able to make it, so he emailed me this. He's got a lengthy paragraph here about that police chase that went on out here, so I was trying to read it here. Total calls, went to 6 alarms, 16 traffic stops, had 2 lockouts, those are usually vehicles. Domestic disputes, 2. Thefts, theft calls, 1. Harassment, 2. Disturbance calls, 2. Admin calls, 5. Suicidal calls, 4. Traffic accidents, 1. Suspicious person, 1. Citizens assist, 1. 1 fraud complaint and 1 animal complaint. Says, while I was working, this is his narrative on the police chase. While I was working shift for Heritage Lake on October 1st, 2019 at approximately 1,305 hours, I observed a cruiser type motorcycle traveling in the Heritage Lake area. I noticed that the year on the license plate looked like someone had used a black marker to change the expiration date from 19 to 20. I ran the registration plate on the motorcycle and it was confirmed that the plate was expired March of 2019. I noticed that the male subject driving the motorcycle was wearing a mask covering his face with his nose down. I found this to be odd and it was pretty warm that day. I activated my emergency lights for a traffic stop around Heritage Drive and exit 35. The driver refused to stop. Traffic was very light on Heritage Drive that day. The driver exited Heritage Drive at County Road 700 East, where the driver continued to refuse to stop. The driver led the pursuit through county roads, eventually entering Hendricks County. When the driver arrived at the intersection of State Road 75 and US 36, the driver turned west and headed back to Putnam County. When we were just east of Groveland on US 36, the driver tossed a black bag onto the roadway. The black bag looked to have contained items in it. I called out on the radio to make sure. Another officer picked up the bag. Deputy Roselle heard the radio traffic and was able to retrieve the bag that was tossed. The banner graphic made a mistake by stating that the Indiana State Police retrieved the bag. Deputy Roselle was able to get the bag to the detective Nally, where they confirmed that inside the bag was 28 grams of methamphetamine, a level 3 felony. Dispatch was advised of the 28 grams of methamphetamine, and they relayed the information to the pursuing units. This information confirmed that we were not just pursuing a subject for an expired license plate, but a level 3 felony possession of dealing methamphetamine, another level 3 felony. The pursuit lasted 58 minutes and approximately 54 miles. Traffic was light during the pursuit. The most traffic was encountered on US 231, which was still pretty light. The pursuit ended on County Road 500 North, just west of the Heritage Lake campground. The subject was advised that he lived in Heritage Lake, and particularly the Patriots Landing area. We are proud to say we removed 28 grams of methamphetamine and a criminal out of our neighborhood. Brian Hill.
Was there only 28 in there when you picked up the bag?
I picked it up with my ink pen, I didn't touch it.
Well done, guys.
Very good.
Get that stuff out of here. All right, Garden Club. Linda Lawler, I believe, is still not feeling well. I believe Anita is going to give a report for Garden Club.
Yeah. Anita Johnson, 55 Jefferson Valley. If anybody has been down to Lincoln Park, the pollinator garden is a bloom. It's beautiful. The cosmos are blooming, the black-eyed Susans. It appears that the deer have made trails through it, so you might want to go, 1, before the deer trample it all, and 2, the frost comes. But it's beautiful, and when I was down there the other day, there were tons of pollinators, which are important for all kinds of things. The evening group is trying to regroup. It looks like we might have the Putnam County Invasive Group to come speak. And really what happened in the last year is the state of Indiana passed a law that certain plants can't be sold or taken off your property. If you have them, that's fine, but you can't give them away, you can't spread them around. And so they are trying to educate the public about what those things are and what to do about them. And then finally, we have our wreath sale. I know you guys are all waiting. We have wreaths, we actually decorate them ourselves. It's a Fraser fir base, and we add in all kinds of other greenery in it and holiday decorations in a big bow. They're all unique, but you can request 2 or more of the same kind for $25. There's a limited supply, you better order today. Pickup and delivery by December 2nd. And you can order by contacting Marianne Novak, emailing heritagelakegardenclub@gmail.com, or telling us tonight. Just because I know you don't want to miss this sale. Right.
Thank you, Anita. It's the middle of October, everybody. Kristen's gonna be here before you know it. You gotta get with those ladies before they run out of fingers to help get that stuff done.
Oh, yes, and the proceeds stay and beautify our neighborhood.
Thank you, Anita.
Can you put me down for 2?
You got it, you want a matching?
Why not?
Okay,
I just want one for home and one for here.
okay.
All right, Ken's got the first ones on order. All right, presentation of agenda. Until AJ gets here, he's given me his proxy, so we'll go forward. Presentation of agenda, are there any additions, corrections, or changes? If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Presentation of minutes, September 9th board meeting. Before we vote on that, there is a correction that was brought to my attention that I need to read. It's about a third of the way down under section E, Lake. About 10 lines in, it says, State of Indiana has updated its parts per million from 235 down to 126, what the North Fork result was 3 parts per million. It actually should read, the State of Indiana has updated the parts per 100 milliliters of water from 235 down to 126, which the North Fork result was 3 parts per 100 milliliter of water. Okay? So with that correction, are there any other corrections, additions, or changes? If not, I'll take a motion to accept as read.
Motion to accept as read
All in
with the
favor?
correction.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. September 30th operation meeting minutes. Any additions, changes, or corrections? If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And lastly, September 30th executive meeting. Any additions, changes, or corrections? If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Treasurer's report, Jim Johnson.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Our total accrued income for the month of September is $84,258. Our total expenses were $119,602, which leaves a negative income of $35,344. Our total income year-to-date is $1,259,729. Total expenses are $1,139,798, leaving a net income balance of $119,931. As of the last day of September, our short-term cash was $495,191, and the total amount of our investments, which are a combination of CDs and money market checking, is $690,249. There are no surprises in these numbers, and it's running right on track with what we expected for the year.
Thank you, Jim. Board committee reports, A&E, Ben Fuchs.
Ben Fuchs, 77 Gettysburg. In the month of September, we approved 11 permits. It was 13 projects. There were 5 houses, and they were 1,263, 1,623, 2,697, 2,963, and 3,860 square feet. There were 2 garages, 1 addition, 1 dock, 1 lift, 1 deck, and 2 fences.
Thank you, Ben. Campground. Anybody from the campground? Cleanup committee. Kurt Stoyer sent me an update for the cleanup committee. Their account total is now at $6,973. Clean Sweep took in $904 and they had 37 members drop stuff off. The oil container had chlorine in it, and since we have a plastic container, we are at risk of puncture and expensive cleanup if that puncture would happen. So they've been advised to build a containment wall around it, and they'll discuss that at their next meeting. And their next meeting is now in March, so that's the end of their season. So they've done a lot of good work for the community this year, so we appreciate that. Government committee, Dick Warner.
Dick Warner, 183 Jefferson Valley. Government committee report, starting out with the Operation Life assumption by the county. Commissioner Rick Woodall, who's the president, he remains optimistic, and there's just transfer details and state approval remain to, and the board has a goal of October, sometime later this week, actually, it was their goal to have the submission to the board. The commissioners meet Monday morning, and I'll find out more firmly where that's at. But at the Operation Life board meeting this past month, they announced a goal to hire and train for 10 new positions. And that is consistent with the county's plans to staff the 3rd vehicle, which has been sitting idle because of lack of funding to staff that 3rd ambulance. So Yay will be back up to 3 ambulances for the county soon. By January 1st is the plan for that. That's the January 1st is the date that the county will assume control, and all the employees will become county employees. And I had a chance to solicit a couple of them at that board meeting, and they were all enthusiastic about becoming county employees. So it looks like it's going to be a win-win for everybody. We had there was a CCD board, the Conservancy District Board meeting this past month, and they approved a proposal from Curry & Associates to survey for future care of our sewer system, and also to propose a plan to mitigate the problems we've been having with massive rain events, and in turn getting failure reports from IDEM, which is not good. So IDEM is aware that the Conservancy is working with this company to get the problem fixed. So hopefully have no failure reports next year. They did mention that there's 1,438 account locations to date, and that includes new construction, so that's how many sewer connections we have here in our community currently. And obviously, as we all know, that's growing with all the building going on. And lastly, we had there actually was 2 other at the commissioner, or the council meeting on the 7th. There's the People's Pathways, a nonprofit organization that promotes and maintains the National Heritage Trail. Many of you see, if you go down 75, you see that. Can't remember the name of it, but that's a national trail that's planned across the country. And People's Pathway is the nonprofit org that's maintaining Putnam County's portion of that. And there's they have secured funding from a benefactor, a loan actually, to purchase the last 6.1 miles that extend from Greencastle to the edge of the county east. And they are working to submit for a grant from the DNR to repay that benefactor for funding that purchase. So just another one of those volunteer organizations that is really helping our county. And then Ryan Keller was a gentleman from West Central Indiana Economic Development who presented. And he covers 6 counties, and he pledged to attend to Putnam County more noticeably, working on the list of projects and expenses. So that's about it. Our next government committee meeting is on the 24th, 10 a.m.
Thank you, Dick. Lake Committee, Ken Hoops, I think the Lake Committee is done for the year. Oh,
It's not here.
Jim, sorry.
On September the 26th, we had our Lake Committee meeting called at 7 o'clock. We had 17 people in attendance, which is a pretty good crowd for us. Some of these things I'm going to go over, we went over last month, we kind of moved it on to the second phase. It was announced that the buoys out in the deeper water are going to be left in the water this winter. Those that are in the shallower water will be taken out so that they don't get broken up by the ice. We had a treasury report saying we've got about $24,000 right now. Last Thursday night, you were notified that we had a lake fishing survey. I don't know if the bright lights came by you or not, I don't remember seeing them, but apparently it went pretty good, and we will know some results in about 6 to 8 weeks, we're told. Also, Ken had asked for the Lake Committee to buy 20 new buoys for next year. We voted to go ahead and buy 25, so that when those get busted during the year, we'll have them to replace right away instead of being in an area without one. The fish stocking plan was finalized pretty soon. As soon as the water temperatures are right, we're going to be putting 1,000 fish of red ear, 1,000 each, of red ear, walleye, largemouth bass, and hybrid striped bass in the lake.
That was delivered today.
Good, okay. We found out after we got all this done that the cost was a little higher than what the board had budgeted for it, so the Lake Committee agreed to pay up the difference. It was about $1,000. We also voted and approved $600 to put lights on all the buoys next spring. So as we put new ones in and the old ones, we'll go out and we'll get a group, and Paul volunteered to help us, to put these things on the different buoys. So if you like them, they're going to be everywhere now. We had a follow-up meeting about the feast and ski. It was mentioned last time in the meeting that we were going to do it next spring or next summer. It's definitely going to happen. We've put together a subcommittee of the lake in order to kind of bring things together and get Mary Petruzzi on board. She's going to be heading it up this next year. We also, if you've noticed down on Lincoln Park, there's some dog decoys out there. They kind of sit there and bob around and stuff. And they were kind of a gift of Don Vogelin in that area. And he not only put them out there, he eventually built some nice wood stands for them so that they could easily be moved around and instead of being stuck into the sand. And so Deb recently ordered 5 more of them. We approved it on the board or in the Lake Committee to do it. And Don is being kind enough to go ahead and make us some more stands before we put them out. We'll determine where we put them.
Those have been really effective, actually.
That's what they claim, so we'll see.
Yep.
I think it was worth the money we put out. I think we spent $380 on them.
For those of you that aren't aware, those dog decoys, they're not to keep cats away, they're to keep the geese away, and it's really making a big difference.
They're on a spring, and they just kind of move all the time, and so they move them about every few days so that the geese don't get smart about it.
And you sent them to our end of the lake, is what you did.
Yeah, well, we're going to get rid of them. They're all going to go in the middle and go away. I don't know. We also talked about and decided on a marina donation from the Lake Committee. That will be brought up again in the October meeting for a second vote, because you have to do it twice. The exact amount probably is not finalized until we make one more decision or discussion on it. And the last part we did, Phil had brought to our attention a couple of lake rule clarifications that he wanted to put through. We discussed it in the meeting, we voted on it and passed it. So those will be coming to the board for your consideration to put in the rule book for this next year. And we adjourned at 9:18.
Very good, thank you, Jim. It's a good meeting right there.
Thanks for the buoys.
Yeah, that's awesome, those are really working out well. Clean water. Phil McKinley.
I would just comment also on the fish auction that was done recently. There are multiple phases and reasons for doing that, and obviously one is to assess the game fish that are here, but also to look at any invasive species that we might have and look at predator fish that we might have and or might need to also help with the water quality issues. So that's kind of a multifaceted approach. I would also, at the risk of being repetitious, the correction that you put into the minutes also appeared in the highlights in an incorrect manner, so I just thought I would say that again for correction in case anybody looks at it closely in the future. Technically, the state of Indiana uses it. It's actually an EPA recommended rule, and the rule is an average of 126 counts per 100 milliliters of water, and that's actually a much cleaner result than the parts per million result. And Shannon back here, knowing Avogadro's number, can tell you how many millions of particles are actually in 100 milliliters of water. So it's an extremely clean result that we actually were getting. I just want to be sure that for future reference was at the correct statement.
Thank you so much, appreciate that. Good news. Long-range planning, Deborah Napier.
We had a meeting in September, and right now my brain is dead. I've been on vacation. I know there was two of us.
That's how your brain should come back from vacation, so.
That was a fantastic trip. We had two of us in attendance, and our goal is to recruit. So anyone interested, please come forward. We welcome everyone.
Have you decided on what day of the month you would like to meet?
We're
So
going
we can get that
to
out
do
there?
the third Tuesday of each month. We shoot for 6:30. If that's too early, we'll change it to 7.
Okay, thank you. Siltation, Dwayne Kelly.
Dwayne Kelly, 282 Patriots Landing. I'm sure that any of you that drove on the east side saw that we cleaned the East Fork silt basin out. And he took 236 truckloads out of that east basin and 2 loads of logs, 2,596 cubic yards came out of that East Fork basin, which means it didn't get into the lake. So it was quite a project this year.
Oh, how long has it been since it was done last?
3 years.
3 years. Wow, that's fantastic.
There's been one time we went 4 years when we had not much rain, but when we get the big rains in the spring, that thing fills up pretty fast. Excuse me. And so we've never gone any longer than 2 years. Most of the time it's 3 years that happens. With the other 2 projects that we had in the summer, we removed 5,392 cubic yards of silt out of the lake and the retention pond this year. So that's a pretty good pile of dirt. And we're on sabbatical till next March, so we won't be moving again until March 2020.
Thank you, Dwayne. Good work. HLEPT, John Deegan.
EPT. Good evening, John Deegan, 218 Patriots Landing. And I have several things I'd like to share with the community this evening. The emergency preparedness team met earlier this month, and we reviewed the red pages of the directory that Rick will be putting together here. We made several changes and updates to the red pages, which are the emergency pages of the directory. The most important thing is that in our review, we determined that the state of Indiana is changing the published telephone number for the Poison Control Center. The old number will remain in effect for a period of time, but they're migrating to a new number, which is actually a national number, and that's 800-222-1222. And that number can be called from anywhere in the U.S.